But they're trying to suppress the story.
We all want to understand why this happened.
When Brian Kohlberger was spotted in Clarkston at that Albertsons grocery store, he was with a girl. I'm not saying this is true, but it's something that people have been saying lately, and if it is true, does that change anything? It's definitely better for his defense, but does it change the undeniable facts of the case? Brian Kohlberger's motion to dismiss the indictment has been denied. Are we really surprised here? The judge basically goes on to say, like, this is just gonna delay the case, it's gonna delay the inevitable. It's not like he's gonna get out of prison if the indictment is thrown out. The state is just gonna refile the charges again, and, you know, a bunch of time's gonna be wasted. The judge mentions exceptionality. This is an exceptional case because the defendant is charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, a quadruple homicide. But his objections to the indictment do not meet that same standard. They are not exceptional. Furthermore, even if the indictment is thrown out, there's no chance in hell that Kohlberger's getting out of jail. And then he goes on to explain that the grand jury is just an investigative body that determines if there's enough probable cause for the defendant to face charges, and it has no bearing on whether the defendant will be ultimately found guilty or innocent. That being said, this is par for the course. Defense attorneys reach for anything that they can grab to delay, to dismiss, and everyone's getting on to Ann Taylor saying, oh, she's just trying to delay, have the trial now. In case you missed it, she has not gotten a lot of evidence. And even the crucial evidence, she hasn't even gotten the whole of it. Thinking about whatever videotape she's talking about, that is a crucial piece, and you need to see it in totality. So if it is the Elantra, somewhere suspicious. If it's the Elantra with the license plate, somewhere, you need the whole video. Because if it's the car coming down the street, you need to see what other people were around at the time, other cars going by. You can't just piecemeal the white car because it fits. Suspicious. It's strange because of how big this investigation was, how important this investigation is for that state. Being in the national spotlight, it's like they had all these FBI agents and, you know, their evidence isn't organized. They don't have the cast report yet? How do they not have the cast report yet? You're saying that's how you know the guy was there, and you haven't even given him the report that shows that he was there? He pinged at the Moscow Tower 12 times before the murders. In the probable cause affidavit, it paints the picture like he was like stalking the house. But what people don't realize is this is a rural area, and there's probably only like 2 towers you can connect to at any one time. Even if he wasn't in Moscow, and Moscow is the second closest tower, his phone could connect to that tower, you know, whenever the other tower's having trouble. And it doesn't mean that he was there. Even in the affidavit where they say the following day he pinged in Moscow, but they don't believe that he was there. Like, why don't they believe that he was there? But once they arrested him, they did get a search warrant for his phone, and then they can get into his GPS and more detailed location data. So while I haven't read the affidavit in a really long time, the Cyber Sleuth show Brian Kohlberger going to Moscow in that loop down like towards Clarkston and then up towards Moscow. I don't think that's right. From what I remember, he took back roads, but he went across to Moscow, you know, the short way. On the way back, he did the big loop around the world, but I don't know. I'm just a little surprised if they got that wrong in that show. I mean, it's a little weird. Got caught on every camera going back to his house that morning. Seen it, that Cup of Joe place in the drive-thru, but he didn't order anything. So was he purposely trying to be caught on that camera, like to prove an alibi? And then he's seen in the grocery store, the Albertsons grocery store, and he purchased 2 items, which they never told you what. The fact that they can't give the parents a digital copy of her phone, it means, you know, there's something on there, whether it's exculpatory or incriminating. I mean, they could just take that part out and give the rest to them, but there's something.
She'd been stalked recently.
Whether it was like some weirdo that was messaging her.
Kaylee calls Jack 6 times between 2:26 a.m. to 2:44 a.m.
Or it's like the text between her and Jack, like if they were fighting, if he was being a jerk. Like, who knows? Who knows? And all the confusion about like them saying like Kaylee moved out, but then you can see through the bedroom that the bed and everything was kind of in place. Blankets had been peeled back, like someone woke up peacefully. 1 or 2 things are true, and they have lied to us about this case before. Certain things that Steve Gonsalves has said over time are starting to make sense.
They're means of death don't match.
Maddie's
They don't.
and Kaylee's cause of death, it does not match based on the autopsy report.
They don't match.
Would indicate that one of them
He doesn't have to
may
go
have
up
been
the
target.
steps.
They never had to go up the stairs.
Up in the corner, slumped. I mean, she was trapped.
Trapped. Now, there was a lot of speculation that, Kaylee was sleeping in her bed in her room, heard a noise and went in to see what was wrong, and that's how she got it. Because he was in the room attacking Maddie, right? They're trapped does not really corroborate that theory. She was in that room because she didn't have a bedroom there anymore. But people have seen through the window of that room that was like a fully furnished bedroom. It did not look like anyone had moved out. Whether that was Kaylee's property or someone else's, that's the question. If you've seen any of those visual mock-ups of that house, all those bedrooms are small as shit. Kaylee had the master bedroom. So if she had moved out, someone moved into that room immediately because that's the best bedroom in the house. So is that where Bethany's bedroom was? I mean, I don't know. Was Bethany upstairs? Never had to go up the stairs. That insinuates that the other two might have been the first victims and might have been the targets. And that's completely different than what we were all thinking based on what we saw in the PCA. Dylan said that Kaylee said, I think there's someone here. The PCA says that also could have been Xana, but listen to their voices.
Hello, miss. What's your name?
Xana.
Xana, do you live here?
Yes.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
No.
You would not mistake one of those voices for the other. They are completely different voices.
Maddie Mogan, yeah.
Madison Mogan, yeah.
Madison Mogan? Okay.
She heard Kaylee say that. But that would mean that Kaylee and Maddie were the second set of victims.
He doesn't have
May
to go
have
up
been
the
the target.
steps.
Or he went back up the stairs. Meaning, unalived Maddie went down, Xana and Ethan. Kaylee said, is there's someone here? Saw Maddie and he ran up the stairs to take care of that problem. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that they said that she moved out of the house. You can clearly see nobody had moved out of that bedroom. So they originally said that both girls lived on the bottom floor to make the whole story more palatable to the public. We later find out that Dylan was on the second floor. Not only that they weren't all sleeping, that they were awake and they saw people. We don't know much about Bethany's story. But we know at one point they were saying she had some exculpatory evidence, whatever that may be. But I would just say that anything that you thought you knew about this case, I would question. They're not going to put lies in the probable cause affidavit. They're not going to perjure themselves. However, I think they very well could have slipped in facts to make people think differently. When Dylan sees the masked man in the house, it says he's walking towards her. So you assume he's coming from Xana's bedroom. Maybe he was coming down the stairs and they purposely wrote it that way to throw people off. I mean, it would make sense why he wouldn't have seen her, because she would have been peeking out the door and she might have just saw her profile, an eyebrow, because he does have a heavy brow. Not necessarily bushy eyebrows, but he has a heavy brow, and maybe she just saw that part of his face. Very well could be. It would also explain why they were so concerned about where Ethan and Xana were that night. If they were the first ones attacked, they know where Kaylee and Maddie were. They saw them on cameras all over the place. Ethan and Xana, Bethany was the last one to see them at 9 p.m. at that party. Crickets. Xana's father said that she talked to them around midnight and they were home, but we know that they weren't at that home at that time. I'm assuming it's because of, location data from their phones. They know what time they arrived home. And I'm not saying I think he's innocent or I think he's guilty. I'm just saying that there are a lot of facts in this case that you may have taken for granted because you're looking to fit certain pieces together. But I guess we'll have to wait till 2025.